Bulletcast for life.
Welcome, boys and girls, to another episode of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon. Thank you very much for tuning in today. And on today's podcast, we will be going over, as always, the NXT TV report and the Mae Young Classic. And we have the return of the Total Divas or actually, technically the debut of Total Divas recap, because we've done Total Bellas, we've done Ms. and Mrs., but we have not done Total Divas yet. So we have the debut of a new segment. But first, we will talk about the New Japan Fighting Spirit card that has been revealed, the full card of all the matches and the match order. So let's get into it. We have ACH, Taguchi, Jushin Thunder Liger going up against Roppongi 3K. So obviously this is the opening match. Should be a fun match. I think Sho and Yo is going to carry the load going up against ACH. Obviously, you know, the older guys, Taguchi, Liger, and even Rocky. Probably, you know, they're there. It's going to be a fun match, but probably the younger guy is going to do a lot more of the athletic things. And we'll go with Roppongi 3K for the win. Why not? Then we have SCU, Frankie Kazarian, and Christopher Daniels going up against Chase Owens and Hangman Page. Sort of a throwaway match here, but I think Bullet Club's going to win just because Bullet Club is a part of the part of New Japan, and SCU is a part of Ring of Honor. So it's usually what always happens. Then we have a sort of an interesting matchup here. We have Flip Gordon, Chris Sabin, and Jeff Cobb in a six-man tag going up against the Best Friends, which is Chucky T and Trent, as well as Hiroki Goto. So this is a little bit of an odd tag team pairing with all these guys involved, but it should be fun. They give the time. If the guys are a little motivated and they want to do something, I think Best Friends and Hiroki Goto probably are going to win, but you never know. Jeff Cobb might, friend of the Bulletcast, Jeff Cobb might pull out a surprise victory over Goto, maybe set up another championship match. You never know, unless Goto lost his title. But I honestly didn't watch the show, so, what do I even know about anything? So I'm just putting out there I think Goto's still the champion, which he probably isn't, so I look like an idiot. So moving on, we have Tetsuya Naito, Evil, and Sanada against Zack Sabre Jr. and the Killer Elite Squad. Another fun six-man tag. Nothing real fancy here. Don't know who's gonna win, so just sit back and relax and just enjoy the match. But a really big tag match. We have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kushida versus Jay White and Gato. Wouldn't be shocked if Gato has to eat the pinfall here, but maybe they want Jay White to get a little bit, get built up a little bit more. He was built up during the G1, kind of floundered out at the end. They did a big angle at the end of the Destruction show with Tanahashi defeating Kazuchika Okada to retain his briefcase, and Jay White kind of came out and laid him out, so that's how we got this tag match here. And now we got the top four matches. We have Will Ospreay versus Marty Scurll in the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Title Tournament Semifinal. And I'm going to put my money on this one as being the best match of the show. These guys definitely can do something special if they want to, and I think they want to. Shout out to Hiromu Takahashi. Hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. I don't know the exact timetable. I haven't heard any news on any updates on him, so at this point I don't even care if he wrestles again. I just want him to live a healthy life and be able to walk and just be a normal person again. So shout out to Takahashi. Get well soon, my friend. Then we have one of the probably the most hyped up of the matches. We have the Young Bucks against the Girls of Destiny for the IWGP Tag Team Championship. I'm going to be really shocked if the Young Bucks do not win here. Should be a pretty straightforward heel-face tag match with the Young Bucks being super over with this crowd and the Guerrillas of Destiny being super hated by this crowd. I'd be really shocked if Guerrillas of Destiny win. If anything, I might bet on they get disqualified and that's how the Young Bucks retain, because that's what the Guerrillas of Destiny do. That's all they do is they just get disqualified. But we have the United States Championship match with Juice Robinson, the champion, defending against Cody Don't Call Him Rhodes. And this match, I'm going to be interested to see what the reaction is for this match. Juice Robinson and Cody both faces in the company. Cody just coming off of the All In show, so he's going to be super over with this crowd. Juice Robinson sort of losing a little bit of momentum since that Cow Palace show where he was just super over with the crowd. And Cody, does he win? Does he bring out the NWA Championship? If he does bring out the NWA Champion, is that like a sign that he's going to win because the NWA wouldn't want their champion to lose? If he has I don't know. Do they want the visual of him holding up both the championships? But if he's going to lose, then don't bring the title because it just reminds people that the NWA is lesser than New Japan. I don't know. Is there going to be any politics going on here? Maybe a little bit, but I think I'm just kind of... Really, Doug? I told you to shut the fuck up. Anyways, before I was so rudely interrupted. I'm going to go Juice Robinson, just because I don't know what Cody's contract situation or relationship with New Japan is at the moment, so I think Juice is definitely here for the long haul, and I think he's just going to win the U.S. Championship. Will this be a good match? Possibly. Will it be a show stealer? I don't think so. I just don't think it doesn't have the heat. I think with Juice, he definitely needs to be that underdog babyface that everybody's rallying around him. And I just think with this one, unless if they try to, turn Juice heel or kind of have him be this heel in this particular situation, I just don't see, the crowd being all for one and one for all. But, if anything, it's going to be a majority of Cody fans, I feel like, in this match compared to Juice Robinson. So then we have the main event, Tomohiro Ishii and Kazuchika Okada going up against the Golden Levers of Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega. In this match, Ishii and Okada, when they're in tag matches, usually it's on the undercard because they don't have a singles match. And that's usually not, they don't phone it in, but they just, hit their big spots and go home without trying to steal the show. But with this being in the main event, this match could and should be crazy, especially with the chemistry that Omega and Ishii have. Okada, having great matches with both Ibushi and Kenny Omega, so it has the opportunity to be a match of the year candidate. Will it be better than the tag match with the Golden Levers and the Young Bucks? Probably not, because I don't think it's going to have the same emotion. But athletically, from an athletic standpoint, a storytelling standpoint, it might be this on par with them. Maybe a little bit better athletically. I don't know. So looking forward to the match. Looking forward to the show in general. And that is coming up this Sunday. And it'll be, I believe, live on New Japan World, and you can catch it on Access the following Friday. So next up, we have the NXT TV report. Not a whole lot of things going on, just the big match between Pete Dunne and Ricochet, and a little bit of undercard matches here. But for the most part, it was just that one big match at the end. So let's just jump right into it, get it kind of out of the way. Dakota Kai and Deonna Purrazzo go up against Lacey Evans and Aaliyah. I talked about it last week. They built up a little bit of a promo where Evans and all these women were fighting backstage, and this led to the match, and Lacey Evans ends up pinning Dakota Kai in 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Good match between these two. Definitely a, just a good, solid tag match. What happened was Lacey Evans hit a blind tag on Aaliyah when Dakota Kai was going to roll her up, and Evans hit her with the woman's right for the victory. So I think definitely they're putting over Lacey Evans, her being, top heel, top 2 or 3 heel, maybe if you define Bianca Belair as a heel. Just not really clear on what Belair is at the moment, but I think Lacey Evans is on her way up. I think they want to build her as some sort of a heel challenger to Kairi Sane if Kairi Sane's still the champion. So I think out of the 4, I think Lacey Evans is probably going to come out of this the strongest, unless if they have any. And then at the second, I probably just think it's be Deonna Purrazzo. I just feel like Dakota Kai, she's just been spinning her wheels recently. She kind of gets a little bit of a push, and then she loses the match, and then she does it again, and it comes back down. So out of everybody, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Lacey Evans, then Deonna Purrazzo. I think then Dakota Kai, and then Aaliyah. She's just gone through so many gimmicks in NXT, just nothing's really sticking. She's a beautiful woman. When it comes to in-ring, she's okay, but there's nothing really stands out to me from her. So I mean, she's probably a lifelong lifer in NXT, unless Vince looks at her and is like, "Oh, she's hot. We could do something with her and bring her up, even though she can't really wrestle all that much." So, next up, we have Velveteen Dream doing a backstage press conference. He talked about Johnny Failure. He refused to answer questions about the whodunit situation with Aleister Black, and said if you're not going to ask any questions about him, then he's not going to talk. So just another solid, different kind of promo from NXT, which I really like, is what they do this. Especially they had something else on the show where they had someone holding a camera, kind of like a TMZ style interview with the Street Profits, who just came back from playing basketball. They kind of talk trash, just kind of in general, about how great they are and the other tag teams on the division. So these two promos are definitely just things that I think NXT does really well, just kind of switching things up, not going through the motions like what I feel like WWE does. I know NXT has the ability to do these things because it's taped. It's only an hour. You're at a college, so I guess you have a little bit more freedom of different places that you can record things at than just going at an arena. But WWE, I mean, they just do the simple backstage promos. They do like the locker room promos, the GM office promos. SmackDown occasionally does something on the stage, but for the most part, it's 2 or 3 places that they do it all the time. And NXT is always finding new ways to do promo locations, and when they're not doing them in one place, and they do another place, and then maybe they'll do another kind of press conference type promo later, which they've done in the past. I know they did one with Candice LeRae, I believe, one time. They've also done one, I think, with like Bianca Belair or something like that. Even EC3, I know they did one where the guy had the phone out, but he wasn't even recording, which I know people would like, how did that slip by the editing room? But whatever. Next up, we have Jason Riker, former gunner of TNA, went up against Humberto Carrillo. Just a kind of straightforward squash match. Nothing real fancy here. Just, building up the Forgotten Sons and Jason Riker, so it is what it is. So then backstage we had Candice LeRae talking to William Regal. She mentioned that Ono was with her, so kind of had an alibi with him. She insulted Tommaso Ciampa, and then Regal said that they have no evidence to show that Tommaso Ciampa was there, and he's already been cleared. And then he asked her about Johnny Gargano, and she says that they were basically Candice said that like she tried to give him an alibi, but it wasn't exactly clear. So they're kind of hinting at Johnny Gargano maybe attacking Aleister Black and Gargano heel turn down the line, maybe. But yeah, they do a video package on the Pete Dunne Ricochet thing. They also had a vignette on Keith Lee. And then we have, they announced that Lars Sullivan will be in action next week. So, see what happens. Maybe we see a return of EC3, maybe. And Otis will face Tommaso Ciampa also next week. So that's what's coming up on the docket for tomorrow's NXT show. And then now we get into the match. The main event, the match we've all been waiting for. We have Ricochet going up against Pete Dunne, the NXT North American Champion, going up against the WWE United Kingdom Champion. I believe it's a WWE Championship, not an NXT Championship. That's how Kayla Braxton announced it, so that's how I'm going to announce it. The match ended up going 21 minutes and 45 seconds, so basically took up the entire last half hour of the show. And I thought it was started off really slow. I felt like the crowd also kind of heard it a little bit by like just really being into the match in terms of trying to put it over. They were like, "This is awesome, fight forever, both these guys." And you've kind of heard me talk about on the Bullet Cast about how sometimes, smart fans and smart crowds can be really annoying because they try to put themselves over and put the match over, and it's just like, okay, like, yes, the match is good, but does it really need a "this is awesome" chant 5 minutes into it? Like, no, it doesn't. Just sit and watch the show. That's why I like Japan crowds so much, because they just shut up, and when it calls for it, they get to their feet and they get loud at the very end. Wish other people could take notes on that, but they don't. So yeah, I thought the match was a little bit slow to the beginning. I knew it wasn't going to go like, a New Japan length. It was only going to go maybe 20, 25 minutes, and that's how long it ended up going in the end. But I felt like they just really were hitting their strides in the end. There was a spot at the very end where Pete Dunne had Ricochet in a triangle and he was working over his fingers. The story of the match was Pete Dunne was just working over Ricochet's hands, stomping on it, doing other types of submissions on it, and Ricochet was selling it. Maybe not even able to catapult himself on the top rope. Just good storytelling between these guys. Not a heel exactly in the match. I mean, maybe Pete Dunne was the more of a subtle heel, I guess, but that's just his character. He's, an aggressive guy who's going to go after everything and just do his thing. So I think Pete Dunne might have been a little bit more popular in the crowd than Ricochet. I don't know if that's just a fact of Pete Dunne being around longer, if people just aren't gravitating towards Ricochet. So don't know if that's a positive or negative for either guy, but definitely the last 5 minutes of this match was really catching fire. I thought it was great. It really started with the triangle, as I was saying. I thought Ricochet was possibly going to tap out, but I had a feeling that nothing was going to happen between this match because I didn't hear any news about some big title change at the NXT TV tapings, which usually always happens, even though I try to stay away from spoilers. So even if I don't see the exact title that was changed hands, since I watched the television show, when what was the big title change that happened? Tommaso Ciampa winning. I knew that was I had a feeling that was gonna happen because I was like, oh, they're building towards this Aleister Black Tommaso Ciampa thing. This must be that must be the match that must be the title that changed hands. So that's it. Kind of spoils it, even though they don't spoil it. But in the end, they kind of trade back and forth. Ricochet does some big moves. They go at chop each other back and forth. They do a double down, and the Undisputed Era comes out and attacks both men, which leads to a no contest at 21 minutes 45 seconds. Great match, as I said. It was definitely going somewhere, which was disappointing. It doesn't exactly put heat. I guess it puts heat on the heels more than it puts heat on the company. I know NXT has a little bit more leeway with this compared to WWE, especially what WWE's been doing lately. Hell in a Cell, I mean, you've had someone cash in their Money in the Bank briefcase in a Hell in a Cell match, and it ends up being a no contest, and then the guy just is okay with having his Money in the Bank contract be cashed in, and he didn't technically win or lose it, and it's not even a big issue on the TV show. But anyways, the War Raiders come out to make the save, and it looks like they're setting up a War Games match between the Undisputed Era against Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders. I believe at that time, Bobby Fish should be ready to compete. If not, very limited. He can do stuff, probably not, go balls to the wall like he probably wants to. But I think by November he would be able to do some sort of physical activity or some sort of work inside the ring. So it definitely looks like that's the point they're headed towards, is at the main event. Who knows? But the match itself, I don't know how many other times I can say this. It was really good. Just a one match show, just kind of the big takeaway from the show. Everything else was just kind of, little promos here. Maybe the other big news is, Lacey Evans getting the victory in the tag team match. I mean, between two matches combined almost went like a half hour. So a lot of wrestling on this show, even though there was only 3 matches in total. So, next week should be fun, especially with Otis going up against Tommaso Ciampa. Excited to see what they do in that match. And next up, the Mae Young Classic. And this episode 3 quite possibly might have been the best episode out of all the... It's definitely the best episode this year. And it might be the best opening round episode out of the last 2 years. Because I just felt like every single match was really good, borderline great. And it started off with Kaitlyn going up against Kavita Devi. Kaitlyn, we all know, she was the Divas champion. She was best friends with AJ. No mention of AJ. Of course not. But, she comes back. Looks good. They talked about how she, she's been gone. She came back. Now she's gone through some personal things. She had a really bad divorce. as well as some other personal matters. And then Kavita Devi, who was in the Mae Young Classic last year, lost to Dakota Kai, was also in the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. She's the first women's wrestler, or WWE wrestler from India, so that's kind of how she has her name. The Dakota Kai match she had last year got like 28 million views on YouTube, so I was almost thinking that Kavita Devi was going to get this win here. But no, Kaitlyn actually gets the victory and advances into the second round. I thought this was a good match. You know, Kaitlyn, she has been doing stuff on the indie scene, so she's not exactly just coming in cold. Devi, I don't exactly know how long she's been wrestling. You know, she has the Indian background, so that's always going to help her getting pushed in the company, trying to get that Indian market behind her. As we saw with Jinder Mahal, even when you're not ready, they still might push you to the moon. But Kavita Devi, I mean, was it shocking that she was going to win? I mean, if they really wanted her to get the victory, if they really wanted Kaitlyn and her to move on to the second round, they could have put Devi with another person. But I think just getting her out there, getting some, you know, I mean, she's with the big name. She's with Kaitlyn, quite possibly the biggest name in the company, just because she's been with WWE, you know, for so long. So when it comes to just mainstream regular WWE viewers, obviously Toni Storm, you know, Rhea Ripley, Mae Young, some of the other, you know, indie names that, you know, people like me or other, you know, hardcore wrestling fans might know. They, you know, Kaitlyn, if you put Kaitlyn Kavita Devi's match on YouTube, it might get more hits just because Kaitlyn has that WWE background, and Kavita Devi obviously has the Indian background, so we're gonna have to see. Maybe I can look it up right now on the YouTube and see how many YouTube hits their match has if this Wi-Fi wants to load. Let's see if I can spell Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn versus Kavita Devi. There we go. And Kaitlyn versus Kavita Devi, first round match. This is the official WWE episode, and it only has 373,000 views. But I mean, if we compare this to other matches or other Mae Young matches that they've put on their YouTube channel, I mean, I won't be shocked if that's probably the most viewed match out of all of them. If WWE's organized on their YouTube channel, they should have playlists and WWE shows. And that's not the mix. Okay, maybe it might be a little hard than I thought it was going to be, but anywho, the match itself was fine. Kaitlyn ended up getting the victory after hitting a rolling cannonball in the corner, and then following that up with a spear for the victory. Decent match, just kind of going through the motions, I get. Not going through the motions, that's a bad choice of words, just kind of them going, and kind of a simple match. Probably Kaitlyn, you know, she pulled out some good things. She was doing a little bit more high flying and some other moves. So looking through, we have some of the other matches on that show. We have 53,000, 74,000, 75,000. So 63. So yes, I mean, it's not the 28 million that she got last year, but Kavita Devi definitely getting, maybe even Kaitlyn helping out a little bit of people interested to see what Kaitlyn looks like and how she looked in the ring. But just as another match, I mean, does Kavita Devi, will she be on the main roster eventually? Probably. Is she, you know, main roster ready right now? I don't think so. But put her on NXT, kind of have her be a sort of monster heel, I guess. Probably, I would say the worst match of the show, because I don't think there's a bad match on the show, but probably the fourth out of the four matches. We have Toni Storm going up against Toni Storm, one of my favorite women's wrestlers. Fell in love with her last year when she was in the Mae Young Classic. She made it to the semifinals, but then she ended up losing to Kairi Sane. And now she's back with a vengeance. Jinny, who is a British fashionista. They have a little bit of history from their time in Progress. and Toni Storm ends up getting the victory. Great match. Toni Storm was super over with the crowd. Good spot with Jinny putting Toni in like a modified submission hold, or a modified surfboard submission hold. And Toni ends up getting the victory in the end. Hits the Tiger Driver for the 1, 2, 3. So another good match, just kind of building on top. I felt like maybe you would put these matches in order in terms of like quality. Opening match was probably the 4th, this match was the 3rd, and then so on and so forth. We have Zai Lee. I'm terrible with names. She's Chinese. She has a martial arts background. Go up against Karen Q, who is American but has a Chinese background. She speaks 3 different languages, so definitely good athletic wrestling between these two. And this match was crazy back and forth. Out of the 3 matches, these two probably had the least amount of name recognition, I think, and they kind of lived. They surpassed expectations, I would guess. I mean, this match was really good. They showcased animation martial artistry, and it had the crowd engaged. And just hard-hitting, fast-paced action, and both women looked very strong. So I think, down the line, if neither one of these women are signed, I think they will be down the line. I think Lee's probably already signed because, she's Chinese. She's probably one of those women who they signed and had big plans for her. So gonna have to see what happens in the end. Lee gets the victory, so she moves on to the second round. So maybe she will make a little bit of a run in the tournament. And the main event, Mae Young going up against Allison Kay. They told the story, they had the story that Allison Kay and Yim have a little bit of a history dating back to 2012 where Mae Young broke Kay's nose in the first ever match they had together. And so ever since then, they've had a little bit of a frenemy rivalry. And this match was great, told a great story. Allison Kay being the bigger of the two, being the heel. The crowd really was behind Mae Young, and Mae Young ends up getting the victory. Good near falls between these two in the end. A story coming out of this is Mae Young's hand. They're fighting on the outside, and Young went for a chop on Kay, and Kay ducked, and Young ends up smacking the ring post. Mae Young gets the victory. Very impressive match by these two. Best match, I think, thus far of the tournament. Probably one of the best opening round matches in the Mae Young Classic in general, this year or last year. I mean, this episode was just fantastic with all these matches. Especially when it comes to these opening round matches, a lot of them are just, get these women out there. They have name recognition. We have sort of big plans for them because, one's from India, one's from China, so we're just kind of get those markets out there. Get their name out there, get them some reps, but they're gonna end up losing, and you just they're forgettable opening matches, which I felt like some of the early ones were, where they're just they just get the character out there, but at the end the big stars are going to get the victories. And I think a lot of these, they had big stars on here. You had Mae Young, Allison Kay, Kaitlyn, Kavita Devi, who's made a name, Toni Storm, which is like one of the favorites to win the whole tournament. So I mean, in terms of name value, this probably was the biggest one out of the 3 thus far. We only have one more episode left until we make it to the second round. And I know one matchup in the second round will be Kaitlyn versus Mae Young. And Mae Young has signed a contract with WWE, so maybe that tips their hand a little bit about how far Mae Young is going in this tournament. But I'm excited to see what Mae Young does. I think she's a great talent. I think she has a great character. She has she's the Blackasian baddie because she's half black, half Asian. Really good. She has the thing with she's a survivor of domestic abuse, so she has that story behind her. She has she works with the organization with that, so that's a good story. Mae Young, I mean, is she? I think she's probably going to win against Kaitlyn just because I think Mae Young, they have more behind her. Kaitlyn, she was a good story. I think Kaitlyn's going to be super motivated for this match. I think it might be one of the surprises just to see how great this Mae Young Kaitlyn match is. I guess a little bit of a dream match, a WWE wrestler wrestling someone from TNA. So something you maybe never would have thought you've seen, 5 years ago when Kaitlyn, or even 6 years ago. I can't remember the last Kaitlyn match. Last time Kaitlyn had a match, but 5-6 years ago, you probably wouldn't have thought that Mae Young and Kaitlyn were gonna have a match. But Now they are. So next week, as I said, or I guess tomorrow now, will be the final first round matches. So we will have to see. I mean, all these matches were great. They were all kind of different in their own way. You had Toni Storm and Jinny was technical, Q and Lee was martial arts and high energy, and then Mia Yim and Kay was a brawl. Kaitlyn and V were kind of your more basic match, but it was still a good match. So nothing to take away from these 8 women that were on this show. They all did their jobs perfectly fine, and I think a lot of them will have a future in the WWE. So, from women's wrestling to women's reality shows, we have the Total Bellas recap, and this one starts off where Total Bellas finished, so we are still in New Orleans for WrestleMania, and Paige kind of gets the news that she's going to have to retire, and she kind of sees the writing on the wall of her neck, and she's trying to do anything she can. So she goes to a voodoo lady, and Naomi is having none of it because she is a law-abiding Christian woman, and she doesn't mess with voodoo, and she doesn't want to, the only thing she believes in is Jesus. And Paige was thinking that Naomi was calling her a freak, and they had drama between that, and Paige is having some FOMO because she's not a wrestler anymore, so all these women are out doing the signings and out doing all these media appearances, and they have to wrestle at WrestleMania. Nia Jax was one of them, where she has the match with Alexa Bliss, and then they talked about a little bit of how her and Alexa Bliss were best friends, and now they had a falling out, so I guess that whole report back at the WrestleMania time was, I guess, a shoot, or maybe they're just still working us all. But Nia, not Naomi, Nia and Paige had a little bit of a fight because I guess Paige, scheduled something for her and Nia and some other people to do something, but Nia had to pull out because she had to do media or a signing or something like that. And then Paige was all up in her feelings, and they get into a little bit of fight. But then we finally get down to the deep-rooted issue that Paige is just mad and sad that she probably isn't going to be able to wrestle anymore, and she feels like she's drifting apart from all the women because they're out there wrestling and doing their thing, and she is having flashbacks because, as we remember, New Orleans is the place where she ended up debuting, and then this is going to have to be the place where she has to retire. So she was just I think she was kind of coming to grips with, she knows that this is the end of the road for her, and she's not going to wrestle anymore, especially in the WWE. Will she wrestle again on the indie scene? Maybe, hopefully not. I don't know the extent of her neck injuries. I mean, necks are nothing to play with. As much as I said that Daniel Bryan, should go on the indie scene, I mean, concussions definitely aren't anything to mess with either. So, concussions, neck injuries definitely will shorten your career. I mean, neck injuries can kill you instantly. Concussions can kill you gradually. Don't want to get too graphic on this show, but I think you know where I'm going with this. Nattie was also an integral part on this episode of Total Divas. She did a signing with TJ, or Tyson Kidd, her husband, and I guess Tyson was not giving Nattie enough compliments, and that made Nattie sad because she wanted TJ to be behind her, and every time somebody asked her about who Tyson thinks is going to win the Women's Battle Royal, he was messing with Nattie and saying that, he thinks that Sasha's going to win because Sasha's his favorite, and maybe Nattie's going to win, but there's a lot of women in there, so you never know. It's going to be a hard match to win. And then also the Bella Twins, who have been in the news the past 24 hours with Brie knocking out Liv Morgan. We can talk more about that on the Bulletcast when more news comes out on that issue. Nattie, or the Bella Twins, have their Birdie B clothing line, was in the WrestleMania Superstore at the Convention Center, and Nattie was doing her best to plug that Birdie B merch. She was taking photos, she was modeling with it, she was doing all these different things, and they go down to Bourbon Street, and Nattie's handing out these flyers and saying, if you buy this Birdie B stuff and you go to the signing, then, the Bella Twins will hang out with you, or do something. I don't know what the hell she was promising. Maybe she was promising some favors, if you know what I mean. But the Bella Twins had a little talk with Nattie after they did their signing, and other people and the fans who definitely were not plants. They were real fans who were asking the Bella Twins a honest questions about the flyers that they got from Natalia in Bourbon Street on television in front of the camera crews, and after signing a non-disclosure and a not cease and desist, whatever the thing is that signs your life away that allows your face to be used and never get paid for it. The Bella Twins and Nattie have a confrontation and talk about what the hell are you doing, saying that we're going to do all these things and we ain't doing all these things because we don't want to disappoint the fans and blah, 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 blah. And then we go to WrestleMania and women empowerment and all that jazz. I think it's kind of a two-parter. We haven't actually, I forget if we've actually seen WrestleMania or if we're just kind of getting to WrestleMania, then the next episode is going to be kind of like the actual show and then the fallout from that. So that is it for the Total Bellas recap. So it looks like it's going to be an emotional one coming up with Paige having to make her announcement of retirement and then having to come back for the GM role. So we're going to have to see what happens with Paige. So Paige is back on the Total Divas cast. No more Renee Young, no more Alexa Bliss. But, we got Lana, you got Naomi, the Bella Twins, Natalia, and all the same crew. And Nia Jax. So that is it for this edition of Under the Radar. A little bit of technical difficulties early on. To be honest, this is probably like my third time recording. And so something that should have taken me like 40 minutes to do is taking me damn near 2 hours to do. But, that's just how the cookie crumbles. So thank y'all for listening to this. Make sure to listen to the Bulletcast on Friday. And listen to the bonus podcast that we've put up over the past weekend. Philip talked about the Ball-In event that we went to on APW on Friday. That was up on Saturday or Sunday, I believe. And then he also put up a Jeff Cobb interview that we did. That's also on YouTube. Definitely check out the Ball-In recap just to hear what happened to Philip and I on our trip. If you want to hear my side of the story, you can go to my other podcast that I do, Curveballs and Share Shots, where we talk about sports and wrestling. The Ball-In monologue is the first 10 minutes, so if you don't care about sports and you've already heard my hot takes on wrestling, just listen the first 10 minutes, and then you never have to listen again. But if you want to subscribe, if you want to support Curveballs and Share Shots, go and subscribe, because we need all the help we can get. But that will do it for me for today. Make sure to follow Bulletcast on Twitter, Instagram, email us, ask us questions, because I love the fan mail questions. We want to hear from more people. More people means more diversity. More diversity means different questions. And when you ask different questions, it keeps me on my toes, because I honestly do not know what any of the questions are. So if I give you shitty answers, it's because I had no time to prepare and it's just coming off the dome. And they're such great questions that it takes time for me to think, and my little brain cannot think that fast on the spot. So email us at bulletcast2sweet. That is the number 2. So BULLET. Is it Bulletcast2sweet? See, I can't see my little brain. I can't even spell. BULLETCAST number 2 SWEET at gmail.com. So that's bulletcast2sweet at gmail.com. Thank y'all very much for listening. Goodbye and good night. Have a lovely, lovely day. Bang.